afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Screen Time with today's Communiqué. It's February, and we all know that it is Black History Month. But of course, in our community, we celebrate Black history every day because every day is indeed Black history. Fun fact, today is President's Day. But did you also know that today is also Daisy Gatson Bates Day? So for those of you who don't know who Daisy Gatson Bates is, I'll give you a moment to look that up and make that your homework. Find out who Daisy Gatson Bates is, famous civil rights activist and leader in the state of Arkansas, locally known, nationally known, and also internationally known. But today we are meeting with another local, national, and international activist, Mr. Osyrus Bolly. Welcome, Bolly.
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all today.
So, of course, we're going to be talking about the Netflix documentary Rustin. And so, before we jump into it, Mr. Bolly, give us just a little bit of history about you. Tell us a little bit about your background and talk a little bit about your career path.
Well, my name is Osyrus Bolly, of course. I basically started out here in our community in Little Rock, Arkansas as an artist. Some of the first things that I was known for around town was just putting together open mics, performing with live bands, doing hip hop, doing spoken word, and always trying to tie in some way to have a party with a purpose, I'll say. We started out doing open mics, but inviting local candidates to come and talk about the reasons why our crowd, our artist community should vote for them. We used to quiz them on ways the artists could be empowered in the city. And so recently, a lot of people know me in the community for my activism, working closely beside Don Jeffrey. We helped start the Little Rock Freedom Fund in the summer of 2020. Previously, before that, we were doing Know Your Rights and direct action training. And so when we started the Little Rock Freedom Fund in 2020, it was to support protesters additionally by doing bailouts, by providing street medics, by just making sure that people knew how to do properly civil disobedience, knew how to do that properly. And so since then, the organization has evolved into a nonprofit that focuses on knowing your rights, mental health awareness, youth empowerment, youth engagement, mutual aid. We do film screenings. We make sure we do community givebacks. Last year, we did a lot of work around tornado disaster relief. And I also work as the racial equity coordinator for the Arkansas Public Policy Panel. I've been there about 5 years. And that's a lot of work around legislative sessions, advocacy, identifying inequities in policies, making sure that we can do that on a state level and also on a local level, racial equity workshops, my podcast, The Folding Chair. So it's just a whole lot. And I'm still an artist to this day. So you always gonna hear some music, some poetry. And I do a monthly open mic still. So I'm still that same guy, you know?
You have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And speaking of, and you are to be commended for all of the work that you and your team do. And I want us to talk about why you all, the Little Rock Freedom Fund, decided to partner with Arkansas Cinema Society to actually do a screening of Netflix's Rustin. First of all, tell us a little bit about the movie and then share with us why you decided to host this particular film screening.
Yes. So last year, I want to say around like September, October, I was talking to Don about things that we wanted to start doing, and we wanted to start doing more education through entertainment. And when I saw that Netflix and Higher Ground, a media production company, which is the production company for Michelle and Barack Obama, was putting out a film about Rustin, I immediately got excited. I put it on my calendar so I knew I could watch it as soon as it came out, because Bayard Rustin is one of my heroes. I really admired the work that he did. And it's so hard a lot of times when you're talking about social justice and working for social change and organizing. A lot of people don't mind doing the work, but they definitely want the glory. And so it's rare to see people that can accept the role behind the scenes and You don't have to tag me and everything. You don't have to post my name on when I make a big donation. He was that guy, but he was forced to be in that position for several reasons: his sexuality, his ideology, his religious beliefs, even saying some constraints that the government put on him. And so when the film came out, I said, Don, we got to do this screening for a number of reasons, because in our community, we have so many groups that could be working together for social change. And I believe in the phrase, many hands make light work. And we are not all working with each other. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the screening. And the panel discussion afterwards with InTRANSitive, Get Loud Arkansas, Human Rights Campaign of Arkansas, Arkansas Public Policy Panel, Little Rock Freedom Fund. Everybody could be a part of this panel discussion so we could talk about more inclusion in our social change movements and allyship. In December, I said, you know what? Let's pick a date in February and make sure that we are celebrating as a city Black History Month. But like you mentioned earlier, we do it 365. So
365. And I'm
yeah.
glad that you mentioned some of the key players in the March on Washington, because a lot of times when people think about the March on Washington, they only go as far as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahalia Jackson.
Yeah.
And so we know that there were so many people, unsung heroes, behind the scenes who made it happen. And just thinking about that, I want you to reflect for a minute, if you will. With in that time, back in the 60s, there was no social media. There were no smartphones. And so for Bayard Rustin and his team to put the word out that this is happening with with little to no tools, like the tools that we have today, with getting the word out. Reflect for a moment, if you will, the dedication, the compassion, the ingenuity, and the creativity that it must have taken for them to get the word out to say, hey, we're going to be in Washington and you need to be there, and this is why.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it's a part of that toolbox that we're still using today as organizers. Like you mentioned, they didn't have social media, so this was the phrase what we call it boots on the ground. This was literally boots on the ground, people pounding the pavement, knocking on doors, making phone calls, mailing letters, taking your transportation through the neighborhood and just through loudspeakers, announcing what's going on, literally connecting with the people up close and personal. That is something that we still do today as organizers, because I know we definitely realize how important it was to have face-to-face interactions during the pandemic. Organizers were used to meeting at people's houses and meeting at churches and holding public meetings in different social settings, and then not being able to do that anymore. And that's all they basically had to depend on back then. And so it's so important to remember, like, even with all this technology, all the social media apps and all these different texting apps, to make sure that we connect them face to face, one-on-one, making sure we can actually be together in person, because it's the most authentic form of relationship building. And that's what he was a mastermind of doing, was building relationships. And not only that, understanding that even when relationships get broken, that you can still find a way to mend it with people and accept your differences and still work with each other. And that's just the spirit of this whole program, what we're trying to do. It's trying to let people know that, like, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of the differences, there's a way for us to work together. We still can have a list of priorities that we want to see get done, and we can share in the I say share in taking credit for certain things. Not saying that everybody does it on their own, but saying like this was a collective effort. What we're doing on the 26th is literally what the word or the phrase coalition building is. Working together to prioritize our ideas, making sure that, hey, whatever you can do, I could pick up the slack on that. And I think Bayard Rustin was just an amazing person who was able to make all those connections. He did a lot of work with the youth too. And that's one thing that I want everybody to understand, that, like, we start talking about SNCC and youth engagement. This is why you don't exclude the youth from whatever you're doing that you consider a movement, because for one, at some point you're going to have to rest.
This film is powerful.
Yes.
A lot of, I think, the messages that were that we're getting out of the movie can be applied to today. And
Yeah.
so with that, what do you think that what do you want the take home message to be for those who come out and watch the movie? What is the take home message?
The take home message, I think, is pretty simple.
Mhm.
If you want to roll in the movement for social change, there is a role for you. And everybody is not going to be the person with the bullhorn, the person on the mic, but in this ecosystem for social change, there is a role for everybody. If all you can do to help advance the movement is sit at your house and wrap up care packages and food for the people out there in the streets protesting,
Mhm.
do that. If you have the gift of being a caretaker for our elders and our youth,
Mhm.
when we're out having these meetings, when we're out in the streets demonstrating, or when we're just putting together programs like this, use that gift. There's so many roles that you can do in this movement. We need engineers. We need people who document the stories. We need people like you who interview us and use your platform to show people what's going on. And so there's so many roles. Just find out what your strength is, or find out what your passion is, and find a way to work yourself in there. And if you're just somebody who got big pockets, because everybody ain't got it, there's always a need for funding, especially with our Black-led organizations. We get when we're talking about decolonizing the wealth in the the nonprofit sector, we get less than 2-3% nationally of those grants. And so finding ways to get us funded. But there is a role for you. And so if you watch this film, you can clearly see all the things that we're talking about. Um, there is somebody doing all of that specifically. Where do you see yourself in it? And then at the end of the day, also realize this: we do the work because it's needed. It's a labor of love. We don't do it for all the attention. We don't. The person that tells the story don't have to get all the glory. And if you look and see the end of the film, I'm not going to spoil it, but just look at how humble Bayard Rustin is after helping be an architect behind the March on Washington. What's the first thing he does afterwards?
Right.
Humble yourself. You got to walk that humble walk and understand that, what I'm saying, it ain't always about you, but
Right.
there are ways that you can personally be involved.
I love that. I love that. Tell us again where the who, what, when, where, and why. Where is the movie going to be
Yeah.
screened? What time? And then talk a little bit about the Q&A again for us.
Yes. So Monday, February 26th, at the Cal's Ron Robinson Theater. So just in case you don't know, that's in the River Market, and that's right in the parking lot with the main library, so you can't miss it. Ron Robinson Theater. 5:30, the doors will open. We'll have the champagne toast to Bayard Rustin, sponsored by Micheaux Awards in the Film Lab. We'll be there. We're going to have a little DJ there so we can have a little music too. It's family friendly. Come on out. At 6:30 sharp, we'll be starting the screening of the film Rustin. That film shows for about an hour and 50 minutes around that time. Immediately afterwards, we're going to go straight into the panel discussion. And that's, again, I'll be moderating the panel discussion, but that's going to feature panelists from the Little Rock Freedom Fund, InTRANSitive, Human Rights Campaign of Arkansas, and Get Loud Arkansas. And that's going to be the Q&A part. So we'll have some questions prepared, but we're definitely going to encourage the audience to ask questions, to think deep, and ask us whatever you want to ask, because we're going to have some brilliant people on the panel, and we want to make sure that this is an interactive discussion, so we answer all questions, and we're going to be forward thinking about our future and ways we're going to work together. But we definitely want the audience to participate in that Q&A.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, many hands make light work. And
Yes.
um, thank you for all that you do. We see you out here grinding every day, doing the work on behalf of everyone in the community. And so I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday, February 26th, along with the other attendees to screen the film Rustin. And so with that, that's a wrap.
Right. Thank you.